Well, good morning. This is David, your friendly neighborhood crappie wrangler. And as you can see, I'm not on the water. You can see behind me, it's raining. And I'm standing here at the fish cleaning table with no fish on it. Well, that's because my boat's in the shop. And I'm struggling with fishing withdrawal syndrome. It's getting pretty rough. I'm trying to control the twitch in my face and shake in my hands. So what to do? Well, this is a perfect time to do a little fishing equipment maintenance. So I've got a couple of rods set up here that I need to re-glue the tip on the rod. So let me step through this process on how to do it. Even though it's pretty simple and I know most of you guys already know how, there are those that don't. So let me show. Alright, well, I have my rod set up like this just for demonstration purposes. And if you notice the tip, it's loose and it's turned perpendicular to the first guide down. And this is not an uncommon thing, especially in the winter when you've just gone from warmer temperatures to real cold temperatures. The fast heat change will make the heat glue lose its grip on the tip. It also happens in the summer. If you fish a lot, kind of like me, and leave your rods on the boat and it's 100+ degrees and the sun shines on your rod tips and it loosens up the glue on a tip and you have to re-glue them. Now, this rod being close to 30 years old, I don't know if you can notice it, but the epoxy on the guides is starting to yellow and in some places crack. Of course, they don't make that epoxy to last that long, and most people don't take enough care of their fishing rods to make them last 30 years. I just happen to do it. This is a G Loomis rod. The tip I've already repaired, which I'll show you in a minute. It's also on a G Loomis rod. Now, these were back when you could buy G Loomis rod blanks, and these were the blanks that they were my go-to blank. So anyway, the first thing I'm going to do is very carefully heat the tip, keeping my flame on the tip side of the tip, not on the rod. I don't want to get my rod blank hot. I'm going to loosen this just a little bit and that tip is going to come right off. And all the books say to do this with an alcohol lamp. I use a small torch, turn my flame down real low, and very carefully. I'm not going to take any risk of getting that rod blank too hot. On some rods, if you get them too hot, they'll just break right in half. And that tip will get warm on you, as you can see. Made me drop the rod, but I kept presence of mind and I didn't berserk and sling the rod forever, or the tip, so I've still got my tip. So now I'm going to heat my glue. I don't know how well that's going to show. Need a little more flame. Going to heat my rod tip glue, and your rod tip glue is just plain old heat glue that you would get for a heat gun that you use for arts and crafts at home. So I'm going to get my glue good and hot and then smear a big chunk of it up there on the tip of the rod. I'm going to stand my glue up so that it doesn't stick to whatever I lay it down to. Now let me check the temperature on my tip. I can still use it. Now, a couple things on the tips. This is a good Fuji tip. This is the original tip on this rod, and notice I have not cracked the ceramic on the inside. It's not cracked or damaged in any way. Well, the reason it's not cracked is because I don't get excited and wind the line in real fast and run a weight or a lure up and hit that tip. That's what cracks the tips. Of course, manufacturers blame it on it being an old tip and the new stuff is better, although more expensive. And fishermen will blame it on the tip so they can get a new rod for free or whatever. But really it's all in how you take care of it and what you're doing. I don't run my lure up to the tip of the rod, not ever. This tip has done me good for 30 years. Anyway, now I'm going to reheat my glue because I know it's cooled down and I can visually see it. I'm going to see it start to sag just a little bit. And again, I'm going to be real careful not to get the rod blank hot. Now, as soon as the glue gets just soft enough that I can get the tip started, I'm going to start it. I'm going to heat it up again and tell when it's hot because the tip will move. And the reason I keep reheating it is I want that glue to go all the way down inside there. There it is, all the way inside. Now I'm just going to hold it still for just a second, just to get it set, and then I'm going to check it. And how in the world I got it just right the first time, I have no idea. So now I'm going to leave it set for a minute, and that glue will cool quickly. Now, if there were missing guides or whatever, I would take the time to put the rod on a rod wrapper and replace a guide, or if I had guides with missing ceramic, which I've just never had that. Never, not once. But a lot of people bring their rods to me, friends, and ask if I would replace a guide for whatever reason, and I don't mind doing it. But if you take proper care of your rods, you'll never break the ceramic out of a guide. These are actually Hardloy ceramics, which is no longer made. Manufacturer said all those things are brittle and they break easy and they groove and braided line will cut them and this and that, and so they quit making them. They make new, more, better, more expensive stuff. But I've never had those problems. Anyway, my tip is pretty well set up, so I'm going to look one more time, make sure. I'm just going to look down the rod, and basically what I'm doing when I'm looking down that rod is I look through the hole on the tip and I see if I can line up all the holes on the guides all the way down the rod. If you do, it's straight. When you first start doing that, sometimes you have to pick it up and hold it up against a white ceiling or something so you can see, and heat it up and move it 2 or 3 times. So anyway, I'm sitting yammered until my glue is set up real hard, and you can see that ring of glue here, the excess glue. I'm just going to take my thumbnail and peel that glue right off, and there it is, just like it come from the factory, all the way done, brand new, clean and everything. I don't need any cleaning up or anything. Now this is one of the things I do on my rods. I'm going to point this out a little bit. I don't know if you can even buy it anymore, but used to you could buy some glow-in-the-dark thread for your rod wrapping thread. And the only thing I've ever used it for was wrapping on the tip. No, ½ inch or so, for nighttime fishing, so I could easier see the tip of the rod if I'm out fishing at night. And this rod actually has a glow-in-the-dark thread on there, and it works pretty well. Anyway, this rod is done. I've already done the other rod, so then all I would have to do is run my line back through it, the tip, and tie my lure back on. So on full disclosure, this is the 2-pound line that I used 2 weeks ago to catch the 7-pound bass on. So while I'm doing all this, I'm going to draw that line through my fingers. And it doesn't take much abrasion on the line to break your 2-pound line. So I run my line through my fingers, make sure there's no abrasion. There's not. Now I'm going to tie my jig back on. Anyway, winter time things, maintenance that has to be done on your boat. Most of the time we like to just go fishing and not do any of the maintenance. Well, I've got boat maintenance, but I've also got rod maintenance. Today I'm doing rod maintenance. So, done with this chore. I got a few other chores to do. And I'm going to do them. So, I hope this has been helpful to someone. And this is a Crappie Wrangler signing off.